Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. So welcome back, everybody. If you guys can't tell, or if you don't know, I'm still here in San Fran for the RSA conference. Uh, so, uh, a little different scenery than normal. I'm in the hotel room right now, but I want to jump on. And today's video, I want to talk about if we should be buying, selling, holding Tesla stock. All right. Now, none of this financial advice. This is just one man's opinion, but I thought that it would be good to give a perspective that maybe is slightly different than what some other people have right now with when it comes to Tesla stock. So I'm seeing a lot of things out there where you have all these people saying hold for the long term, be bullish, and overall, that's the sentiment of this channel is to invest for the long term. But then I'm seeing other people talking about selling and how things are just going to go to crap. And then we have people who are just going to hold in perpetuity, for good or bad. But then there's a potential opportunity cost, right? So let's say Tesla is, let's just say at 200 and it drops all the way down to 100. Well, you could have sold everything at 200 and double the amount of shares you have down at 100, right? So there's opportunity costs there. So let's talk about this. Let's take it, kind of one, step by step. And let me see. I'm adding wrong notes here. Um, and let's try to unpack, at least what how I'm thinking about this. So I got some notes here which will help guide me through this. Okay, so should you buy Tesla stock? Should you sell Tesla stock? Should you hold Tesla stock? Or really just any stock, you know, in general, in this current environment that we're in. So let's first talk about the macro environment. All right. So here's what we know. We know that there are layoffs going on everywhere, right? There are rifts happening left and right. We see that. We see that there are indicators that we might have a negative GDP announced soon. We have Fed continuing to raise rates. They're going to raise rates next week. Again, I think the odds are 90%. What else we have? We have slowing demand. We have housing starting to show, some weakness, although some resiliency right now. And so just in general, things don't look great, right? Inflation's still higher than what the Fed wants, so they're going to continue doing what they're doing. And in general, it's just things aren't looking great. Okay, so where's the potential bright side of all of this? Okay, so with everything I just said, it may make you think, okay, well, things are just going to get worse, so I might as well sell now. Okay, fair enough, right? If things get worse and you sell now, you will look like a genius, or it'll look like a smart move in the future. But here's where I would warn you. Next week, the Fed's going to raise rates. We all know that, right? It's almost a guarantee. It's almost signed, sealed, and delivered. However, we don't know what Jerome Powell is going to say in the Fed meeting. He might say, we are going to pause here and we're going to let these rates work their way through the system and see what happens, right? Because we're seeing cracks, we're seeing slowdown, and maybe their work is done. So they might signal that they're going to pause. They also might signal that it's on the table. We'll see what happens, etc. But the point is, the market could really rally from this. So if you sell now, if you sell, next week before the Fed meeting, well, you might be setting yourself up for failure. However, if the Fed raises rates and they don't give any indication of anything, things might remain where they are, or they might sell off. Now, what we have seen is, essentially once we know what the Fed's going to do, and we get past the noise for like 2 or 3 days, I think we've seen the market in general rally. Okay, so taking that kind of perspective, it would make me think, well, maybe it's best to just kind of stay the course, just hold. All right, so that's from that the Fed perspective. But then what about the general economy? Like, how are things doing? Okay, so let's see. We've had great earnings from the sector that's been really getting the most beat up. What's that? That's tech. All right, we saw Facebook do well. We saw Google. We saw Microsoft. I mean, we're seeing all these companies actually report good earnings. Tomorrow we'll see Amazon's and see what they report. But the point is, we're actually seeing decently good earnings. It's as if all the austerity measures they've taken are starting to come through, come to fruition. So when I see that, it makes me think, okay, well, maybe things aren't as bad as perceived. Maybe Elon's perception of how bad things will be, which we'll talk about in a second, which is why they keep lowering prices. Maybe that isn't actually what's happening, or maybe we're just past it, right? Maybe we're on the other side now. So with the macro, it's blurry. It's as blurry as it's ever been. We don't know where things are going. Next week, when Jerome Powell speaks, we should get more clarity. Okay, so let's go back to Tesla. So a big knock against Tesla and really Elon Musk. And again, I apologize. I see the lighting's like awful here. I'm trying to constantly change this, but back on topic. Um, with Elon, a big criticism, and I would say a fair criticism, is that he likes to spread a lot of hopium. He's a very um, optimistic, bright-eyed, bushy tail, sees the potential of the future kind of guy, and people knock him a lot for the things that he talks about, like the vision, right? And the fact that every quarter we hear the same things over and over, yet a lot of these things haven't come to fruition or aren't even close to coming to fruition. And as a result, when we're in these tough times, why would people you know, keep going down this direction with Tesla and Elon if every time we're getting the same message and we're not seeing any results? And so what do I mean by that? Okay, well, Dojo, we've been waiting for Dojo for a long, long time. It's still not even being used for FSD. And now Elon's talking about how it could be a AWS type service for training neural nets, which yeah, that's exciting. That's great. But we heard that 2 AI days ago, right? So, but and we're not anywhere closer to it. In fact, in this last earnings call, he mentioned that it might not work. It could go to zero, or it could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's like, okay, I get it. It's nice to have those long shot opportunities in a company, but in a time like this, when the stock's down as much as it is, yeah, hopium, it's not gonna keep us confident. It's not gonna keep us in the stock, and it's not gonna make us feel good, right? And don't take these as my words. Take this as like the sentiment that people are expressing. All right, so that's Dojo. What else? Well, FSD, FSD. Once again, people are sit there and they think, okay, well, Elon, you've been telling us it's happening this year for however long, right? You guys have all seen the videos that have been stitched together. Now, I do think some of those videos are taken out of context for what it is, right? Like I saw one recently where Elon was with Lex Friedman. I think this was last year, and Lex asked him, when do you think? And Elon said, I think we can, go full release of the beta by the end of the year, and that happened. That was on time. They did that. He didn't say that we'd have robotax and all that at the end of the year. He was talking about as far as going wide with beta, and that happened. But there are other things that Elon has said about when we'd have robo taxis and all that where he's been off. So I do think that's a fair criticism, right? And it's fair in a time like this, right? When things are really really tough. Like Tesla's closed at or right now after hours $153, right? We were at 420 not too long ago, and there's only so much of that many people will attribute to the economy. Again, fair enough, but when it comes to things like FSD, and when you're on an earnings call and you're saying that this is going to be the future of the economy of Tesla, right? And we're willing to potentially, technically, we could go to zero margin because if we're making $15,000 with FSD on a per vehicle basis, that's still outperforming all the other OEMs. So again, that's a great messaging in general when things are good, things are stable, because it's we're people are willing to wait for that to happen. But what happens is when they've lost 80% of the value, 50% of the value of what they had put into Tesla, it's fair to expect people to push back and say, okay, hey, we need to start seeing some results, right? You can't just keep promising tomorrow or down the road or the future. We want to see results today. Again, I think that's a fair criticism. We'll get back to that. And again, these aren't my personal thoughts. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, right? Because these people are bullish on Tesla. They're long-term investors. They have a point that is important to empathize and at least consider them. All right. So then what's another example of this hopium? Well, Optimus. Okay. Again, w- the picture has been painted about what Optimus could be, what it might be. This idea of maybe Optimus is building the cars. We saw the new way of building and assembling the vehicles that will be happening in Giga Mexico. So all that's exciting, but that's years away still. Give me one second. I got a cough. Sorry about that. But yeah, so that's still years away. Right? The Mexico factory is not even built yet. Optimus is just now learning how to walk, as far as we know. So again, to expect people to just have faith and just believe in a mission while they see their entire investment get deteriorated, you have to be able to understand that perspective. And that's where it starts leading to all these conversations. Well, okay, they have to do ads and they have to do all this, and we need better communication. And Elon shouldn't be saying these things, and he shouldn't be on the earnings call. You can understand the point of view. But with that said, let's play a little devil's advocate here. All right. First of all, Elon, let's go way back. Elon said what they were going to do. He said they were going to start off with a high end vehicle, the Roadster. That would lead to the Model S and X. And that would lead to Model 3 and Y. And that would lead to what? Well, this new vehicle that'll be built in a Giga Mexico. So all that he's delivered on. Okay. All of that. Now, he's also delivered on Tesla Energy, in my opinion. All right. Now, Tesla Energy is one of those things where we have been wondering forever, will it happen or won't it happen? Will it happen or won't it happen? And I think this is the first quarter we're starting to see it happen. By the end of this year, I think we'll really see it come through in the numbers. And this isn't hopium at this point, right? We're seeing the volumes come out. We're starting to see the lag effects of a lot of these previous sales start to come in. We're starting to see how this is ramping up even faster than the auto side of the business. So, playing devil's advocate, that was one thing that people were saying is ever going to happen. It's way down the road and all this stuff, right? Just the way we talk about FSD, the same way we talk about Optimus and Dojo. Yet here we are with energy coming to fruition. What else have we talked about like Earth? What other topics, projects have been spoken about in the same manner? Cybertruck. Well, Cybertruck's extremely delayed, right? Yet guess what? Q3, end of Q3, maybe beginning Q4, we should start seeing the first deliveries of Cybertruck. So again, this is another thing that we've been waiting on for so long. And guess what? It's finally coming. It's finally going to come to market. It's finally going to be out on the roads. It's going to be people taking delivery of the Cybertruck. This is a big deal. It's something that many people thought was never going to happen. People thought that it was, Elon was just again hopium, etc. But guess what? Here it is, and it's happening. I think I had one more thing I wrote down here. Oh yeah, we also have exciting, which will be the Model 3 refresh. Right now, this isn't maybe a hopium kind of thing, but it's just something else to be excited about in the short term. Right. So in the short term, we got mega packs, we got Model 3 refresh, and we got Cybertruck. I think those are some pretty exciting things. And then, in my opinion, I would also throw in FSD progress. So there is definitely potential here for a lot of good news out there. Now, what none of this will really affect is the macro. Okay. If the Fed keeps raising rates, if they go to 6%, there's nothing Tesla can do, right? People will buy less. There'll be less people buying unless you drop the price. And you drop the price to essentially caveat and compensate for those interest rates going up, which are making vehicles more expensive. So let's think about this. Okay. What if Elon is wrong about everything he's doing? Right? What if he's wrong about the macro? What if he's wrong about the need to drop the prices to get, the car sold? Well, the worst possible thing would be that you gave, you know, consumers a better price on the vehicle and that you took in less, revenue than what you could have. So that's really the worst thing that could happen. All right. Now, I guess you could, from a stock perspective, there's a risk of re-rating, things like that. But really, I don't see a lot of downside. If anything, Tesla's protecting their pipeline for sales by doing this, right? They're getting ahead of the curve. So I think, from my opinion, I think it's fine what they're doing. Okay. But so this leads kind of to the next controversial point of view. All right, and this may be a reason to sell, buy, or hold Tesla stock. And at the end of this, I'll tell you what I'm doing. My true thoughts. But when it comes to Tesla and Elon and the current strategy, so to go from zero vehicles per quarter to what are we at now? Like 420, 430 per quarter. Well, that took us, that we were able to get there without advertising. We were able to do that through word of mouth, butts and seats, etc. All right. The real question now, and the big debate now, especially in this macro environment, is can we go from 400,000 vehicles a quarter to 5 million vehicles a quarter, which would be 20 million a year? Can we do that still without advertising? Okay, so this is the hot debate. Right, and I made a video last night. You guys know my opinion. My opinion, if Tesla thinks it's time to advertise, I'm all for it. If Tesla thinks it's not time to advertise, I'm all for it. Why? Because I am humble enough to say I don't have all the information like they do. Now, that doesn't mean that they're right just because they have all the information. But what I know is that I don't have it, so I can't actually make a informative decision. And here's why. Okay, why do I think that advertising isn't really the end all be all solution for sales? Well, I've seen maybe like 5 different commercials with LeBron James driving a GM Hummer EV. You know how many they sold? 2 this last quarter. They sold 2. So if advertising is so great and it leads to so much volume in sales, why did GM only sell 2 Hummers? It's got LeBron James. It's on primetime commercials. I think there's a Super Bowl commercial on it. It's on the NBA during the NBA playoffs. Why did the Hummer only sell 2? Maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's some component issue, whatever. Okay, give you that. Maybe that's the case. But with that said, if advertising is so beneficial for sales, why is Lucid having trouble ramping up and selling vehicles? Why are they having trouble? Why are they stockpiling cars now? Why is their inventory growing? Right? They have a lot of commercials. They have way more commercials than Tesla does. So my point, I guess, really here is that I don't know if commercials are really the answer. Now, maybe the problem with commercials is that they would be different with Tesla, right? Maybe with Tesla, you'd be advertising the price because people think that, a Tesla costs the same as a Lucid, which the Model 3s and Model Ys definitely don't. Maybe with it, you could instead focus on the safety of the vehicle, right? But you'd want to do that in a positive way. What about with the FSD, right? I actually saw a great ad with Mobileye, where somebody was driving it and there was someone in the back seat just kind of narrating what was happening, essentially saying, you don't, have to put your hands on the wheel. You can enjoy yourself, you can relax, but you have to watch the road. And the car was just doing everything for him. Yeah, I thought it was actually a pretty good commercial. So maybe there's more nuance with this advertising thing. But at the same time, if we're gonna be more nuanced, do you not think Tesla's thought about this? I think they don't want to advertise anything for FSD because, well, they already have kind of a target on in the middle of their forehead for FSD, right? Everybody wants to come after them for what they're doing, how they're doing, etc. No one likes it except for us, of course. All right, so I get that. So you would really want to lean into just the safety of it and maybe the pricing. But even then, talking about pricing is a little, I don't know. It's a little on the nose, if you will. Like, but I don't know. Maybe that's the thing, man. That's not what Hummer's doing. That's not what Lucid's doing. So there is an argument to be had there. I do think that to go from 400 to 5 million vehicles, it's possible to do it without advertising. I really do. Because as the sales grow, as more and more people have it, that word of mouth just grows faster and faster. It becomes more exponential. And the truth is, if you see Rick over there or if you see Amy over there and they bought a Tesla and they're your friends and odds are what kind of job they do, what they do, and if they could afford it, you're like, oh, how do you afford this? And that those conversations start to happen. So I do think that can be like a very organic thing. Okay, so final thoughts here. Let's talk about GM real quick because GM, kind of released their sales and everything. So people are questioning whether or not dropping the prices is needed, right? And GM on the surface looks like they had a good quarter. But if you start digging into it, and actually Farzad had a great video on this, so check that out. But if you dive into it, what you see is that Q4 to Q1, they actually did do better, right? From a sales number. But if you compare Q1 of 2022, when there were all the issues that GM was having with chips and production, all that, right? So that you would expect that to be a Q1 2022. You would expect that to have been lower number of vehicles sold. Well, actually, in Q1 of 2023, they sold even less. And in Q1 of 2023, they didn't have any of those issues. They didn't have chips or supply chain issues. So that clearly speaks to the bigger, opening up that aperture. The bigger issue is in the automotive industry that things are slowing down, right? I think in China, GM sold 25% less vehicles, right? So this isn't just a Tesla thing. But what's unique about Tesla is that they can react to things as fast as possible, as soon as possible, because they have the data, but also because they're very transparent because they don't go through dealerships. So I think we need to be more holistic about this. So, with all this said, what am I doing? Well, I'm in the ball camp of just holding right now. I don't want to do too much. I think we have a very clear gap down to 145 that could be filled, right? I don't see a lot of options coming in. There's not a lot of bullish sentiment. The stock could sell off a little bit here, but in just a blink of an eye, next week with the Fed, we could go right back up to like 180s, 190s, 200, right? That could happen so quickly. So to capture that delta, I do not think it'd be worth the sell, right? I think that's just thinking way too short term. And I think that we do have some bullish catalysts in the future, but they're all going to be dependent on the macros. And so we'll see what's going on with the macros. I think if the Fed thinks that we might be getting a negative quarter and they've already raised all these rates, they really might pause. And if they pause, that would give the market a chance to breathe. I'd give the Fed a chance to see if inflation is going to continue coming down because it has been, just maybe not as fast as they want to. And so I think sometimes doing nothing is the best move because it is doing something. It's refraining. It's checking your emotions. It's taking everything in the context and deciding that I'm not going to speak today because I don't have all the information. So I'm just going to try to be just wait until I get more data that can really provide an informed decision for me. Now, some people may think they've heard enough. Some people might think that earnings call was enough, and fair enough, right? But if you don't need the money tomorrow, and if you can hold out and you can get through this rough period of layoffs, macros, everything, I think you will be rewarded in the future because again, I cannot stress this enough. I think this is the plan. Tesla's plan is to get as many people to buy Teslas. Why? Because it becomes like the iPhone effect where once you buy Tesla, you're hooked. And then the more they sell, the more data they get. And the more data they get, the faster we get to autonomous vehicles. And it seems like we're getting pretty close. I'm very curious about 11.4. Elon says that it's been a long time since he's had an intervention. I'm seeing people with 11.36. They're having a long drives without interventions. If you watch Farzad with his wife, they had two interventions and they didn't actually have to intervene. It was by choice. Now, don't get me wrong, the vehicle would have been in the wrong lane. It might have gotten over and maybe it would have missed it. So they would have to reroute. So I get it. It's from an efficiency perspective, they had to do it, but it wasn't because of safety, right? It was an annoyance thing and it was an efficiency thing. That was all. So I'm very bullish on this. 11.4 will be very interesting because it should fix those two issues that Farzad and had with his wife and his parents. And I think we're getting really close there. So I would hate to be out of the stock whenever that finally comes to fruition or when we have a moment where that like it's clear sight that this is happening. Now I think we're already there, but for more and more people to see it, I think I want to be in the stock for those moments. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully you take that with a grain of salt here on Investing Against the Grain. I meant to say this at the beginning. I really bad at this. Please please subscribe. It helps the channel grow, helps to get this more people out there so that they can get more of just more information to help make their decisions on a day-by-day basis. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you all. I love you and catch me tomorrow. Peace.